Good morning. We are once again back with Jaecoo because of this hilarious article that has popped up in Mail Online. This is a good one. Chinese Temu Range Rover taking over the school run. I want to dive into a little bit. I know it seems like we've done this one before because we kind of did this last week when I said that I found out that the reason the Jaecoo J7 was selling is because everybody is stupid. But it's kind of amusing that now we have this article that's just come out from the Daily Mail. This was yesterday. 2,200 comments, which obviously we're going to dive into. Now, I didn't really want to be making this video today, but I thought I had to, and it does get quite interesting. What I wanted to do was this video, which is about Auto Trader. Auto Trader have absolutely shot themselves in the foot and are going bust. But I am away at the moment, travelling again, and I've got a copy of Auto Trader from 2002, and it's got gems in it, such as this, an 86,000 mile Ford Escort XR3i for just £495. So that video is coming up soon. Let's dive into this Jaecoo article and see if we can work out what on earth it's all about. Hang on a minute. That's not the right screenshot. Sorry. Okay. We'll dive into this briefly then, because I've clearly got my screenshots in the wrong order. Sorry about this. Absolutely not deliberate. This is the Jaecoo article about the Temu Range Rover, but this is the Armada UK owners group. Armada, Jaecoo, same thing, just Chinese stuff that's coming over here. This was an interesting one that's been sent to me numerous times. Be interesting to see how long it takes, as no UK stock. A lorry swerved into me to avoid a person walking in the road and then didn't stop. The lorry didn't stop. So that means that you've got this reply here. And I thought I'd dive into this a little bit from the Armada group before we went into the Jaecoo group, because you say potato, I say crap from China. But potato, doesn't matter. Right, anonymous for obvious reasons. I work for a UK dealer. There's no central store for parts. A list is compiled from all dealers, and when there's enough parts, a purchase order is sent to Anhui and sent over by sea. I sold a car to a customer in April. It had a faulty indicator stalk. He drove the car for 3 days, and we've had it since, along with 11 other cars that have had to come back for various reasons, bearing in mind it's November now. Mid-November at that, late November at that, and this car's been in since April for a faulty indicator stalk. Worse is that we don't have loan Armadas to give out, so everyone is using Hertz Eco range, so Corsas or Fiestas. Not one salesman or service advisor wants to be there due to the stress, but this time of year, they keep telling us it'll get better. I'd rather get the bus than drive the shit that I'm selling. Sounds like they're being sold without sufficient after-sales backup. She doesn't mind. Look, should we just put her up again? She doesn't mind at all. Sounds like they're being sold without sufficient after-sales backup. Shouldn't be allowed, but Chinese companies seem to get away with shoddy service and poor products all the time. The phrase cheap tat from China springs to mind. Anonymous then says, all retailers who took on the Armada brand were promised something entirely different. A group in London who are renowned for top-class sales and customer service have destroyed their reputation due to selling these. There's no official dealers, just subbed out to existing dealers or retailers. The whole thing is a shambles. One customer collected their car, called us the following week to say the money he paid for the car was back in his account, and nobody knew how or why. I like it. Should have kept it. Oh, this is another one. No, this is in the wrong place as well. Oh, sorry about this. We've got two that are in the wrong place before we even start the video. Any ideas why the mileage says 349 on the app, but the car itself says 219? Obviously, quite a difference there, and the replies are hilarious. It's because the app shows kilometres even though it says miles. It's a software glitch on the app. Brilliant. There you go, Paul. The app shows range, not mileage, but it's showing the range in kilometres. Anonymous says the app is useless. You can complain on the feedback section, as I have done. Stephen, no idea. But it really is a terrible app. Right, is that the end of my screenshots that are in totally the wrong place? I do apologise about that. As I say, you say potato, I say potato. The Chinese Temu Range Rover. Let's just talk about this title, right? Because this is in the Daily Mail, basically. This is money, Daily Mail, same thing. Same rag, different day. You say potato, I say utterly crap tabloid garbage, but we're going to cover it anyway. The Temu thing, right, that's offensive. This is the thing. If someone said, oh, you look like you got your watch from Temu, I would be very offended. If someone said, you look like you got your shoes from Temu, you look like you got one of your children from Temu, it's not a term of endearment. It's meant to be offensive. But why is it that people are suddenly like saying that this is okay? You know, back in the day, do you remember, Geoff shops at Netto, it's where he gets his best clothes. Do you remember those rhymes when we were at school? You'd have never been seen dead in a Temu car, but now it's like some term of endearment. Right, so that's strange. Owners tell us why they love their cars so much as sales in Britain soar. So we've got, this is, oh, hang on, no, this is the wrong place as well. Sorry, my bad. Don't charge your phone in a Chinese electric car, UK defence firms warn amid security data fears. Hang on, that screenshot is in totally the wrong place. Let's get rid of that. Oh, hang on a minute. Oh, no, there's another one. Electric vehicles with Chinese parts are banned from UK military sites amid spying fears. Come on, I can't believe I've got these screenshots in the wrong order. I apologise. Are we getting there now? Oh, no, there's a third one. Can't have ears. MOD warns troops not to discuss military information in fleet vehicles over Chinese spying fears. I apologise. Right, we've finally got the correct screenshot back. Terrible video, this, isn't it? There's a new car with an unfamiliar badge that's become a common sight outside the school gates in 2025, but while it might look swanky and expensive, Range Rover, it's in fact a Chinese model that costs a fraction of the price of one of the British luxury SUVs. It's a £30,000 Jaecoo 7, which has already been dubbed the Temu Range Rover. Like I said, not a term of endearment. They went on to say in January, they come from Cherry. The name Jaecoo is a mixture of the German word for Jaeger, meaning hunter, and cool. Hunter cool. Fair enough, that's the sort of thing I would have come up with. It's already proving popular, especially among young mums who want the Range Rover look for half the money. Do you remember the Audi TT thing? And you couldn't buy an Audi TT because you would be accused of being a hairdresser. This is where the Jaecoo has now put itself. Basically, they are driven by clueless young mums, it seems. So we'll go a bit further into the article because it's hilarious. It's not just the Jaecoo 7 that's flying out of dealerships, it's how vocal customers have been about their love for the car. I've got some vocal customers further down in the video, actually. Social media is already flooded with customers, usually women in their late 20s and 30s who don't own a house and buy everything on fire. No, I didn't say that. Who claim to have ditched their aspirations of a Range Rover because they were only aspirations because they couldn't afford them and turned to this cheap Chinese newcomer. Daily Mail and This Is Money has spoken to owners to find out why they've opted for a cheap Chinese equivalent, and having driven the Jaecoo 7 ourselves, we detail 5 key reasons why we think it has stolen a march on the UK car market. You shouldn't use the word stolen when talking about Range Rover. That's a sore subject. But I do feel bad for Range Rover, who used, what's her name, Victoria Beckham and all that development into the Range Rover Evoque, when really all they needed to do was get an old Lada and put a fresh shell on it, because apparently that's all anybody wanted. The numbers, so we did this last year. We talked about how many were sold, and I'm still intending to make that video where I explain to you just how few are actually selling relative to how many Ford Fiestas were selling 20 years ago, because things have changed. And then we go into this, right? So we've got the numbers here. We've got a lot on Motability, but we won't talk about that because fleet rental actually comes up as Motability. I firmly believe that Motability is pushing the Jaecoo, although I got a little bit slated in the comments for that. Why mums love the Temu Range Rover. The mums that go to Iceland also love the Temu Range Rover. If this isn't telling you all you need to know about the Jaecoo 7, well then, yeah. Daily Mail, This Is Money, spoke to a new Jaecoo 7 owner, mum and influencer, Olivia Mundy, who bought a car a few weeks ago. She fell in love with it straight away. She took her first-time mum TikTok handle to share her favourite things about it in a video that's been viewed 676,000 times. In fact, it was TikTok that first hooked her on the Jaecoo 7, along with seeing it online. Wow. I'm only influencing people to buy old Volvos, but here we go. Apparently I should be doing this. Maybe I should be a first-time mum on TikTok. I don't do TikTok. Once I looked into the features and I saw one in person, I was sold, she said. I love the look of the Range Rover, but it's not realistically in my budget. It should be. If you've got 676,000 views on TikTok, or does TikTok not pay? I wouldn't know. Someone's running mine. In fact, it's a bit like the China thing. You know how China have copied the Range Rover? Well, someone's copying all my content and is earning money from it on TikTok. So if anybody is a lawyer and knows how we can stop that, that'd be great. So basically, she's bought the plug-in hybrid, and then she goes on to say how good it is. And look, there she is, first-time mum. I'd imagine that is all just very tight tops. And who knows? I don't know what goes on TikTok these days. I don't look at it. So basically we've got reports there about the government and defence levels, but what's really funny is she actually goes on to say later in the article, let's skip through this, but no, let's not skip through this. I think people are realising a lot of the best electric and hybrid tech is coming from Chinese brands now. The build quality feels solid, and I wouldn't have bought it if I wasn't confident. There's quite a lot of people that don't agree with you, but we'll get on to that in a minute. And I like that it's trending. Oh my gosh. vapid. It's fun seeing more people talk about it on TikTok and online. It feels like I got ahead of the trend. I think the Temu term is funny. I get what people mean by it. Looks like a luxury car, but without the luxury price. I don't take it negatively at all. Strange. So there's one. And Chantel, she's called. Chantel says she bought the Chinese SUV to replace the more expensive Range Rover Sport Autobiography, as her family was looking to save money to put towards a property renovation. Who are these people? Olivia says she bought the Jaecoo 7 because she wanted something cheap to run without going fully electric. And then it goes on, and apparently searches are up for that. But where's the bit about the fact that she's just had her first child, a daughter, and last year the priority shift? Oh, that's interesting. Olivia, if you're watching, actually, keep watching, because I'm about to do the crash test details. And if your first child is your priority, well, wait until you see how the Jaecoo stacks up against a Volvo. Not an old one as well, by the way. It is a Chinese one. But I just feel like you should look at it, because as a first-time mum, you'll like it. That's coming up anyway. So, as I said, she's got a young family. She doesn't mind if it means cheaper fuel bills. The Jaecoo costs £60 to fill up and lasts forever versus £100 for the Range Rover. Does it matter to Chantel that it's a Chinese car? She says concerns about parts have been solved by knowing the garage will give them a courtesy car and the Jaecoo's warranty. So, great. They can't fix a wing mirror, but they can give you a Vauxhall Corsa. That's not going to look so good on TikTok, Chantel, is it? And then she says, all you're going to see, if the car is being tracked, is how many times I've got to the McDonald's drive-thru in a week on the sat-nav, so I'm not bothered if they hack the screen. We are dealing with the absolute epitome of peak civilization right here, aren't we? So let's do some screenshots from some comments before we dive further into the funny stuff. This is a long video. I'm sorry, I didn't mean for it to be a long video. But why not? Because I think there's a lot to cover here. Byron Woods says he bought 2 in South Africa. I've owned Range Rovers and Land Rovers in the past, and it's simply the tech, various money and warranties that make the car even better. And Giraffe on Toe says, if you're used to Range Rovers and Land Rovers, then nothing, literally anything, would seem better. I don't understand how JLR have got away with their quality control for so long, so I don't think you can compare them because they just seem to be breaking all the time. So Peter says, electric or a 1.6 Chinese petrol engine, they will drop off just like the MG have. The resale value will be nothing, and balloon payments on PCP and lease deals will be eye-watering. And my opinion says, an SUV has its merits, but it will never be exciting. No, all it's got is a high seating position. That's your lot. If this car didn't have this grille, right, if they cocked up the design at the front, and if they hadn't copied there's bits of Porsche Taycan here, there's bits of Range Rover, there's bits of everything, and if they hadn't done any of that, then it wouldn't be selling. Then, I think I missed a comment there. Why aren't we putting tariffs on Chinese cars? We are killing the European car industry. Good question. The lifespan of these vehicles will be limited. I will not be surprised if China can control when these cars are ready for the scrapyard. No, nobody would be surprised, but the deliberate destruction of the European car industry is well underway. Same as the deliberate destruction of the country, actually. It's all going on at the same time. Brewdog Meister says, I'll stick with my SL55 AMG. We did one of those in an auction video not so long ago. And he also says, I'm sick of these angry women in huge SUVs driving super aggressively. Where's that angry woman? Let's put her back on the screen. Does she look like the type that would drive super aggressively? She looks to me like the type that would park on double yellows and then be like, I'm a mum. I've got a child. But maybe we're stereotyping. But stereotyping is a form of self-defense, like not buying cars from Birmingham. Then you've got this new must-have be a Motability car. The new must-have Motability car. That's why you see so many of them. Yep, that was my theory just the other day as well. And Hudson says, the boot for such a big car wouldn't be enough for me. My next car is a new shape Skoda Superb 2-litre TDI estate. Can't go wrong with one of them. Right, now we are going into the Jaecoo group where someone asked, are they good cars? Should I buy one? Look at this. My 7 Hybrid is without a doubt the worst car I've ever bought. I've done 11,000 miles in 8 months, and it has had a great chance to impress, but has failed at almost every turn. The radio keeps turning on randomly. The alarm has a mind of its own. You can forget a quick change from drive to reverse with the slowest gearbox known to mankind. Couple that with the rear boot, which constantly changes its height levels to ensure you get your head clocked, and also the slowest in the market of the boot going up and down. Why is it electric boots? There is no need. What's wrong with using your hand or your arm and some muscle? There's no chance of touch-up paint, or in my case, much-needed software updates due to the faulty equipment, which is on back order for weeks with no likely due date. In general, the car is a classic grabbing defeat from the jaws of victory. Should have paid £10,000 more and bought a proper car. There you go for your Temu Range Rover. Not My Name says, I've had to deal with the Chinese for a long time. Chinese stuff is cheap for a reason. Think about it. Yep, same here. Used to work for a classic car parts manufacturer. We used to buy some bits from China. The first batch would be great. The second batch would be okay. And the third batch would be 95% broken on arrival. Just the way it is. So much for the cost of living crisis when school mums can afford to throw away 30 grand on this piece of Chinese crap. And Rudy correctly says 90% of all cars in the UK are bought on credit, yours for 3 years, and then hand it back, just like houses or flats owned by the mortgage lender until paid off. My opinion says the big difference is that you own the house when the mortgage is paid off, and it most likely will have increased in value, i.e. it is an asset. Debatable. There's lots to talk about that. It's also your home, which you can be proud of. Unlike a car, a lease car is borrowed from a finance company, and the huge depreciation is factored into the initial and monthly rental payments. I don't understand why people would rather drive around in something like this that they're paying every month for than turn up at the school gates in an old Volvo that is fully paid off, that doesn't have a monthly charge, and I don't mean electric. I like driving cars that don't have any debt attached to them. So let's look at the money. I put this into Google Gemini. The cheapest leasing deal for a Jaecoo J7 is £234 a month. But there is an initial upfront payment of £2,800 or 12 months rental. Now, there's two things to say here. One, I have bought so many cars for £2,800 that have been absolutely perfect, like the one that is sitting outside this villa in Turkey that has done 3,000 miles now, and it had a warning light on when I started. Also, annual mileage, 5,000 miles. 5,000 miles in a year. Tell me they don't want you to go anywhere without telling me they don't want you to go anywhere. Compare that with the Range Rover. £580 a month, £600 a month with an initial payment of £7,000. How much are people earning to be able to justify £600 a month to rent a Range Rover when you're paying £1,200 a month to rent your house? Is it just me? Like, have they got the national earnings wrong? Or is everybody earning more money than I think? Because I'm not being funny. At no point in my life would I have thought paying £600 a month on a car was a good idea. I mean, I'd buy a car for £600 and risk that. But signing up to that every month and paying an initial payment of £7,000 when you could buy a perfectly good used car for £5,000, it just seems insanity to me. I think these are the people that finance Christmas as well, aren't they? Are these the ones that are save up for the holidays on payment schemes and then Klarna everything at Christmas? I think it sort of goes with the territory, doesn't it? And Dave says, when he walks like an advert and talks like an advert, then it's probably, obviously, this is an advert. And you've got to ask, why is this in the Daily Mail? Why are they so keen to push these Chinese cars? There's got to be money changing hands at somewhere, hasn't there? Let's go a little bit further on then, if I can find the screenshot that we're at and not show you the wrong ones again. This is a good comment. Remember Kia coming to the UK? Yes, but the thing is, Kia arrived in the UK with very simple cars, and most of the complaints with Kia, the early cars, were in the metal that they used. I don't think they had reliability problems in stuff like, do you remember the Kia Pride? Saw a Kia Pride estate yesterday. I didn't even know they did one of them. But they rusted. That's what they were known for. And they were known for being cheap. But they were also known for lasting. That was the thing. And then, Kia at their game. And look at where they are now. And yeah, JLR. Well, JLR are in such a mess. It's unbelievable. And then Ben says correctly, has anyone read the What Car review of the Jaecoo 7? This is a rubbish car. Right, let's skip through this because I appreciate I've been going on far too long on this video. Let's get to the crash test stuff. Oh yeah, this is a good one. Anyone else got the rear seat USB port not working? To which Wayne says, have you got the vehicle turned on? The comments in these groups, I mean, the Armada one's even worse than the blooming Jaecoo one, and that one was bad. Hello, everyone. I'm looking for a Jaecoo 7 and could use a bit of help from anyone who already has the petrol hybrid electric version. Am I right in thinking it can top up its battery while driving? How many miles do you usually get from self-charging? Is there a way to choose to use those self-charge miles before the petrol engine kicks? These people are stupid. Honestly. There you go then. The Jaecoo J7 is being bought by mums who can't think. Right, now here's the Volvo comparison that we're all waiting for. I don't know how long we are into this video. I'm torn between a Jaecoo 7 petrol luxury all-wheel drive and an XC40. So if you're a mum, what do you need to know? Well, both cars have got a 5-star Euro NCAP rating, but the numbers tell a deeper story. The critical context is the testing year. The Volvo was tested in 2018. The Jaecoo was tested in 2025. Yes, Euro NCAP tests get harder, but they've changed the rules. What they've done now is that you get points based on having anti-crash technology fitted. So in the old days, right, what they'd do is they'd get a great big battering ram and they'd run it into the side of the car and they'd go, did everybody survive? And then you get a score based on that. But now what they do is they go, does the car have sensors that activate when a battering ram is about to hit the side of the car? And if the car does, it gets a full score. And if it doesn't, then it doesn't get the full score. It's no longer about how much they actually protect the occupants in a crash, which, what was her name? Olivia, Chantel. This is the important bit. Although the Jaecoo was tested in 2025, look at the percentage rates for the adult occupancy, the child occupancy, and the road users and safety assist, right? The adult occupancy for the Volvo XC40 is 97%, and for the child occupant, it's 87 versus 81 and 80 for the Jaecoo. It says the Volvo is structurally superior. The Volvo is better for families. It's scored higher for protection of 6 and 10-year-old dummies. If you have children, you will be safer in the Volvo. The Jaecoo wins on road users because it has an active bonnet. But what's hilarious is some people in the Jaecoo groups are saying this ridiculously lightweight plastic bonnet is blowing in the wind when they're on the motorway. Yes, the Volvo doesn't have the technology to detect a crash, but it does have the structural rigidity to protect you if you are in the crash. Safety assist. Look, Volvo's down at 76%. The Jaecoo's 80%. The Jaecoo has updated software protocols for lane support and speed assistance. The Jaecoo can tell you you're about to crash. The Volvo will protect you when you do crash. That's the difference. Again, this is exactly what I've just said here. All of this is information that you can find online. Look at this, child safety. The Volvo, designed with integrated booster cushions in some markets and excellent geometry for car seats. It lost very few points here for child safety. We're literally talking about an article about why mums go to Iceland to buy Temu Range Rovers, neglecting the safety of their children in that choice. Jaecoo lost points because its child presence detection, the system that reminds you not to leave a baby in the car, didn't meet Euro NCAP specific technical formatting, even though the feature exists. The Jaecoo even lost points because it can't work out when there's a kid in the back. The verdict, the Volvo XC40 is the better car if your absolute priority is crash survival, but the Jaecoo is the better car if you want active prevention technology. So if you want technology, yeah, great, buy the Jaecoo. If you want to actually survive the crash, get the Volvo. Hilarious, isn't it? Absolutely hilarious that we're going down this route. Oh, there's the Volvo, by the way. So, where do we go from there? Then we've got some questions in the Jaecoo fan group about whether these cars are any good. Alex does a great little thing here on, he's done 5,000 miles in his, and he does his likes and dislikes. Lane control. Lane control keeps coming up. People hate it. The main beam doesn't know what it's doing. Planting your foot on a highway coming out of services has a couple of times turned a turtle on and somewhat reduced acceleration. Unsure why. Reset and carried on. I can tell you why, because I've been spending some time in the Jaecoo group. It's when the car itself is confused as to whether it wants to run on petrol or electric. So it's, I nearly said spazzes out for a bit then, but you're not allowed to say that anymore. It retards its, I can't say that either. It gets confused and it can't work out what to do. So it sort of goes in limp mode for a brief moment. Certain settings always reset to default, such as media volume. That drive me mad. The bonnet flexes at high speed and wind. I guess it's just a bit thin. Yeah, but you got a good crash rating for when you do eventually hit a pedestrian because you're too busy trying to work out what your main beam is doing or working how to turn your lane control off. And he doesn't like the go fast strips on the side, but there are some things that he likes. CarPlay, EV mode is accurate on range. Wireless car charger, 360 camera, smoothness of ride, seats are comfy, drive seat can move back when the door is open to give more space. Rear doors have a light inside for a blind spot. So there's not really anything that is major there. Then you've got this post here about body panels. Again, I've been talking about crashes, so we'll just cover this quickly. I'm trying to rush through this. My apologies. I'm going to show you some Range Rovers in a minute. Nobody can get the parts. Basically, Jaecoo and Armada, what they've done is they've filled a whole load of ships with Jaecoo and Armadas in about 4 different specifications, and they have not shipped over any parts. So if you have an accident in your Jaecoo or your Armada, You just got to wait for the parts to arrive, and you're going to be in a Vauxhall Corsa until then. Perhaps you could tell me where the body panels are, as a friend of mine who runs a body shop can't get any. They're on back order with no date confirmed. I didn't just make up a reason. It's the fact you can't get panels. I very clearly said I tested an 09. The chap asked for other options, and I gave him mine with guidance from a body shop. There are no aftermarket panels at all made yet. I didn't run the car down. I just gave the truth. As I said, I don't think they've shipped any spare parts over for these cars. They are just chancing it that people will buy it because they look like this. There she is. So then I'm trying to work out where we've got to now as we fly through the end of this video. Let me know if you're still with me at this point, and we'll get to, where did we go? We've done the structural rigidity, we've done the Volvo. Oh, I think we've done that one as well, haven't we? Oh no, this is the bit with loads of problems. Personal experience since April, no, I wouldn't buy another one. Loads of issues. It's appallingly slow, inadequate heating. I've seen that in lots of the groups as well. Many blame the owner for not reading the guide, but that's rubbish. The car is uncomfortable, feels cheap and tinny. It's cold, has faults with the wipers, the DAB radio. But hey, it's a Temu Range Rover, and I'm not offended by that. It's basically just cheap. Most owners wouldn't recommend it. And then you've got the fact that someone says it's user error, but no, the windscreen fogs up, the sensors at the front were faulty, the DAB is useless, and everybody seems to say this. The heating is naff, and also the passenger window repeatedly falls off the tracking. I mean, my Ford Transit does that, but it's more than 20 years old. The wipers won't wipe more than a third of the screen. It's comical having to sit at an angle to be able to see through the wiped area of the screen. Garage thinks it's a car fault. So you've seen everything now. You've seen all of this. You've seen the dealers saying they're rubbish. You've seen the users saying they're rubbish. What more can I do to persuade you not to go and buy a crappy Chinese car and instead buy a good quality used vehicle? Like these from 1992. I'm going to show you these just for the people that are still watching. This is 1992, 2002. This is from a 2002 copy of Auto Trader, which I am going to be doing a video on. But the problem is it's going to be about a week long because it's so fascinating going through an inch-thick copy of proper Auto Trader. Here we go. Land Rover Discovery 2.5 TDI in Roman bronze. It's a 3-door, 4,995. So at the time, that was, 10 years old? Then you've got this SsangYong Corando. I've put a couple of SsangYongs in because SsangYong is another one. They came over here. They used, I think, Mercedes engines initially. And now they've rebranded because nobody was buying SsangYongs. This is the one with the Mercedes engine. They're now called KGM. I've seen a few KGMs out and about, and the Subaru dealer down the road from me has the franchise. I may go test drive one at some point. Look at this beautiful Range Rover Vogue 2.5 TDI. £5,495 in brown, metallic red, with matching trim. That would be worth more than what you paid for it today. There's our Land Rover again. And then this one, which we looked at earlier on. This is the Ford Escort XR3i with 86,000 miles at just £495. I will do a special video on the cars under £1,000 section from 2002 because it's painful. And then you've got these as well. I've put these in. These are in the under £1,000 section in my copy of Auto Trader. A Daewoo Nexia and a Daewoo Espero. Do you remember when Daewoo first arrived? With basically copycat Vauxhall Astras and copycat, I think these were Cavalier based. And again, they sold, but not in huge numbers, and we didn't have the Sun newspaper, the Daily Mail newspaper pushing for them. And finally, I really want a Ford Maverick. 95,000 miles, £6,995 with a full warranty in immaculate condition in 2002. So there you go. That is my roundup of what's going on in the world of Jaecoo and Armada. I apologise that the video was so long. Let me know if you made it to the end of the video. The code word for if you made it to the end of the video is, Geoff, I really need to buy that Vauxhall. I really need to buy that Escort XR3i. Have you got a time machine? Code word for if you made it to the end of the video. Have you got a time machine? Thank you very much for watching this video.